Hey, I'm Gary, and welcome to another segment of Interviews with Experts. Today joining me, I've got Dr. Stephen DeWitt, sexologist, and what I want to ask you is, we've talked before about sexual compatibility, we've talked about communication and how important that is. What about if a couple wants to expand their sexual repertoire? How do you go about that? Obviously a lot of communication, but what are the strategies to do that? How do you counsel couples in that area?
Yeah, and great, and that comes up a lot, and I think it's something that's widely covered by the media. And you have things like, dress up in lingerie, or use whipped cream and strawberries and chocolate, or however that is. And the biggest point is, I think, what you hit on is communication, Gary, and that's so important. And people have this thing in their head that, and I hear it a lot, well, I just want my partner to know. I just want them to get me. I don't want to have to tell them anything. I just want them intuitively to know what I want. Mm-hmm. And I just shake my head. And I think if there's any other thing in life where you'd expect, it's a big part of your life with you and your partner, and you expect your partner just to know what it is. Like what you want to paint, the inside of your room, or what car to get, or anything else like that. You come home and I'm going to have the room painted zebra, and I'm going to be driving, a 1979, Pinto, right? Obviously, it's not going to be compatible with my partner. Right. So the biggest thing is actually discussing it and communicating. And people, say, well, that's not sexy, or that's not fun, or I want it to be hot. And if I know about it, that's going to detract from some of the energy that I get from it, right? So what I always talk to people about is making it fun, making it exciting, making it, a little bit risque. And one of the things that I always talk to people about is going online. And as when it comes to sex, going online for any kind of information can be challenging. And there's a lot of misinformation and myths out there that keep coming up again and again and again online. What I do is I have different sites that I will recommend to couples going to. And so what they'll do is they'll go to the sites separately, and there'll be a whole list of all these different sexual, wonderful kinks and how people express themselves differently, and a whole list of it. And separately, they'll go through and they'll say, that's interesting, or no, that's not something for me, or... So
let me set the stage here.
Yeah.
So you're recommending that the couple sit down in front of the computer screen and go to these resources.
Yeah.
And just should drink wine, right? You need to have a drink, I think.
It depends. It depends on what it is. Right. If you go in with the attitude that, hey, I'm not going to love everything that I see, and some of the stuff's going to push some boundaries.
It's vulnerable, right? Like you could be afraid to say, "Oh gosh, the whips and chains, that really does something for me," but you could be, fearful of being judged.
Yes, absolutely. And I think so. One of the things I do is get people to do that separately. So it's not sitting down with your partner and doing it, but doing it at different times, at different computers. If you have two computers in your home, or different times on the same computer, and then have a list. And then you can sit down and go through that list, and share some of the things, or switch lists with your partner. And all that does is opens up communication. It doesn't mean, hey, this is what we're doing tonight, because this is number one on my list that I really want to try. Right. But it starts getting people to think differently and then communicate differently about sex, right? Because if we keep our blinders on, sex can often get, stale. Right. And it loses that erotic charge that keeps things hot, keeps things exciting. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? And how do you do it in a way that, still has the trust, still has the communication, and it's a safe space for people to talk about sex within a relationship?
Okay, so the recommendation is I'm going to include wine in my slant of it. Sit down either separately or together. Go to some of the resources that you recommend for your clients, and see where it leads. Mm-hmm. Lots of open communication. Yeah. And inevitably, you're going to be introduced to things that you may not have realized that you'd be interested in doing, and you're going to increase your sexual repertoire. Yeah. Great, thank you. So, Stephen, if any of our viewers want to get a hold of you, how can they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to send links to people about these different sites for them to go through by themselves or with their partners. Or hey, if you don't even have a partner, you can go through and be like, that's interesting. Maybe the next time I have an opportunity to be sexual with someone, I can try it. So my website is drdewit.com, DRDEWIT.com, and you can find my email there, you can find my Twitter there, and send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to help them out.
Great, excellent advice. Thank you, Stephen, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this segment on improving your sexual repertoire on interviews with experts.